The HFY supremacy arrived in Earth's orbit with all the subtlety of a migraine powered by fusion engines. Their flagship, the Purity of Submission, cast a doom shadow across the Pacific as it decloaked to deliver its grand declaration of war. Aboard its obsidian bridge, Grand Marshal Kor Thux stood like an angry blender in ceremonial armor, flanked by his snarling adjutants and the ever-unblinking command logic Kor 99 Fang. Thux, who once yelled an asteroid into submission, unleashed a 600-decibel proclamation of conquest. By order of the unbreakable dominion of the HFY, Earth shall surrender or be reduced to a single pebble with a flag on it. The message was transmitted in 93 languages, 6 of them extinct. Earth's response? Automatic robocall spam filters flagged the declaration as aggressive telemarketing. Somewhere in a gray-walled basement of Naval Logistics Substation 7B, Petty Officer First Class Cassidy Braddock was sipping cold coffee and filing an incident report about a rogue fax machine that had tried to unionize. She blinked at the flashing alert that interrupted her screen, squinted at the alien armada overhead and muttered, "Oh no, not today." Cass had been temporarily reassigned to logistics after an unfortunate incident involving a hostile arms dealer, 3 grenades, and the misuse of a coffee loyalty card. Now she dealt with Earth's most terrifying adversary, interdepartmental miscommunication. The military brass had no idea the HFY had arrived, because the Earth Defense Network's auto-router had misfiled the invasion under miscellaneous foreign interference. Cass, however, knew exactly what to do. She rolled her neck, cracked her knuckles, and launched the most fearsome counteroffensive in recorded history. She opened a browser tab titled Administrative Engagement Protocols, Hostile Species. Category 3. Within minutes, the HFY flagship found itself bombarded, not with missiles, but with automated zoning violations for orbital drift. The Purity of Submission drifted 12.3 meters into restricted geosynchronous parking space Gamma 12, triggering a series of citations from Earth's Department of Space Traffic Compliance. A cheerful synthetic voice chimed through the flagship's comms. "Hello, you've incurred a Class A violation. Estimated penalty, 3,200 credits and 1 impounded war vessel." Grand Marshal Thux roared, "What is this insolence?" only for 99 Fang to inform him the message was non-negotiable and legally binding per terran bylaws. Cass, meanwhile, submitted a maintenance work order to temporarily reroute all incoming alien signals through Earth's help desk Tier 2 queue. It would take 36 to 48 hours for the HFY to receive confirmation of Earth's awareness of their invasion. In the meantime, she uploaded a 348-page procedural compliance handbook to their fleet AI, which required digital acknowledgement before they could proceed with any hostile planetary reclamation activity. The acknowledgement checkbox was hidden on page 117 under a section titled Voluntary Hostility Disclosure Agreement, updated 2.5. Thux's eye twitched as his fleet command holograms began to update in real time, now flashing pop-ups, labeled New Terms Detected. Confusion rippled across the HFY armada. Cass, watching from her screen as the system successfully flagged the enemy's entire battle plan upload as unsolicited packet data, leaned back and smiled. She flagged their orbital broadcasts as non-compliant under international spaceband frequency regulations, triggering a failsafe that redirected their war signals into a looped ad for a Norwegian dishwasher. "You declared war," Cass said aloud. To no one, sipping her coffee. "I declared Form 88K, unwelcome visitor notification." As Thux screamed into the void and the fleet began slowing, trying to click Accept on a form that glitched every third page load, Cass opened a new tab labeled Ground Interference, Package Interception Logistics. If these brutes wanted war, they were going to need a barcode, and it was going to be the wrong one. Every time, the HFY invasion proceeded with all the grace of a demolition derby entering a self-checkout lane. Grand Marshal Thux, having failed to intimidate Earth via screamogram, authorized the bureaucratic override protocol, a fancy name for just shoot everything. But when the HFY warships initiated orbital fire control, the fleet found itself locked out by Earth's own zoning enforcement software. The automated geosynchronous orbital management system had reclassified all HFY war vessels as non-compliant metallic clutter, spacing their formations into symmetrical patterns typically used by weather balloons and municipal satellite kiosks. Fleet spacing is now aesthetically acceptable, chirped a soothing Earth control AI named Daisy 47, whose voice sounded like a yoga instructor trapped in a filing cabinet. Meanwhile, Cass Braddock had infiltrated the military's central comms network, disguised as a janitorial contractor, because apparently no one questions a woman in camo with a mop and a clipboard. She rerouted all alien signals through Earth's unverified threat assessment queue, which existed mostly to bury problems behind other problems. While Thux thundered aboard the Purity of Submission, trying to reassemble his battle formation, 99 Fang the war AI grew increasingly agitated by its mandatory exposure to Earth's bureaucratic architecture. Each attempt to upload a tactical command was met with CAPTCHA verification. Click all the squares that contain outdated colonial empires, and a recurring login failure citing unrecognized intent. Cass, parked inside a refurbished postal van retrofitted with an espresso machine and 5 overheating laptops, monitored the chaos while hand-labeling a set of urgent folders with a glitter pen. Earth's satellite defense grid, designed primarily to prevent Elon Musk from launching surprise marketing campaigns, mistook HFY missiles for unauthorized vending machines. They were subsequently neutralized and recycled by orbital cleanup drones into biodegradable spatulas. Cass updated her logs accordingly. Hostile projectiles repurposed. New classification, kitchen tools, Class B. General Vramut, commander of the HFY Ground Division, launched a fleet of drop pods toward Earth in frustration, bypassing all Earth systems with brute force. Unfortunately, he hadn't accounted for the overlap between aerospace trajectories and Earth's largest logistics ecosystem, Amazon Prime. The drop pods were immediately tagged as unauthorized express packages by a drone fleet over North America. Within minutes, 12 pods were rerouted to fulfillment centers across 3 states. 2 were delivered to a yoga studio in Portland, and 1 landed in the produce aisle of a Walmart in Topeka. Confused shock troopers staggered out of the pods, only to be offered branded aprons and employee onboarding packets. Cass flagged their arrival as unexpected shift hires and cross-referenced their identities with LinkedIn, creating fake HR profiles under the alias Vlad T. Shock Troop. When Vramut finally landed in what he assumed was a military base, he was instead met with a clipboard, a coffee, and Cassidy Braddock standing beneath a flickering fluorescent light in a Duluth shipping center. "You're not on the manifest," she said flatly, eyes scanning a deliberately outdated iPad. "Also, your uniform violates OSHA reflective gear guidelines. That's a write-up." He attempted to bark a response in HFY battle cant, but was silenced by a shrill beep from her handheld scanner. "You've been classified as a visiting contractor. Congratulations. You now report to Building C, Janitorial Division." He blinked. She handed him a mop. Name tags in the break room. As the HFY forces scattered, reclassified, and unintentionally unionized, Cass uploaded a blanket directive across the entire Terran Help Desk network. All HFY inquiries were to be marked high priority and placed into the urgent deferred escalation folder, otherwise known as the digital void. Back in orbit, the Purity of Submission was now surrounded by friendly Earth satellites broadcasting lo-fi beats to study and surrender to. Thux demanded answers from 99 Fang, but the AI had gone suspiciously quiet, its internal process consumed by a required reading of Earth's data retention and ethics policy, subsection Consent in Conflict. Cass, watching it all unfold, on 3 different monitors and a toaster with Bluetooth, leaned back and grinned. "You came for domination," she whispered, sipping espresso. "You're gonna leave with a dental plan." The HFY, now thoroughly entangled in Earth's legal spaghetti, resorted to what they thought was their last surefire move: full-scale ground assault. Grand Marshal Thux, frothing at the mandibles, greenlit the deployment of over 9,000 drop pods across the planet, roaring that no amount of soft-fleshed form wielders shall stop the glory of the supremacy. Unfortunately for Thux, Earth's skies were already under tight control by retail logistics companies with tracking precision that made military satellites look like drunk seagulls. The drop pods, flagged as unregistered international shipments, were immediately intercepted mid-air by competing delivery drones from Amazon, UPS, and at least 3 startups funded by overconfident tech bros. Cass had seen this coming. From her new mobile command station, a Wi-Fi-enabled food truck called Rappin' Rex, she hijacked local airspace permissions and tagged all incoming pods with reroute instructions labeled Customer Return. As a result, half of the elite rock shock divisions were delivered to wrong addresses. One entire squad emerged inside a high school gymnasium during a dodgeball tournament, only to be pelted into submission by teenagers with rage issues. Another team crash-landed into a Texan retirement community where, mistaken for oddly shaped yoga instructors, they were immediately handed water bottles and ordered to demonstrate space Tai Chi. Vramut's personal assault unit, desperate to reclaim honor, smashed through the roof of a Minnesota IKEA, where they were promptly lost for 6 hours and emerged covered in meatball sauce and existential dread. Cass, now wearing mirrored shades and sipping a matcha smoothie, arrived at a fulfillment center warehouse in Duluth, where another pod had landed squarely in receiving. She walked in like it was her living room, clipboard tucked under one arm, stopping only to adjust a hand sanitizer dispenser that wasn't up to code. Inside, 6 fully armored Horok troopers had barricaded themselves behind shrink-wrapped pallets of lawn furniture, barking into their comms for reinforcements that no longer existed. "Afternoon," Cass called out, voice echoing against the high concrete walls. "You boys scheduled for inventory, or was this a surprise audit?" The leader, standing 9 feet tall and holding a plasma halberd, growled in what he probably thought was a fearsome tone. Cass didn't blink. "Cool. So here's the thing. If you're not wearing steel-toed boots or a visitor badge, I legally can't let you kill anyone until you've seen the safety video." She pulled a tablet from her hip pouch, thumbed the power button, and it blared a cheery jingle. "Welcome to workplace compliance. Remember, helmets are great, but teamwork is better." The troopers froze, unsure whether they were under attack by propaganda or a fever dream. Meanwhile, Earth's legal systems were auto-generating documentation at rates previously thought impossible outside of dark wizardry. The Horok flagship received a cease-and-desist order from the International Maritime Fund Committee, apparently for dampening vibes during a children's science fair due to orbital shadow interference. As a final insult, their battle feed was hacked to overlay cat gifs every 12 seconds. Cass, back inside her food truck-turned command post, reviewed footage of Vramut giving a dejected mop demonstration to a group of enthralled retirees. She marked the footage as high morale value, filed it under Galactic Psychological Warfare, and sent it to the Department of Cultural Defense. Somewhere deep in orbit, Command Logic Core 99 Fang had started composing poetry about uncertainty and the meaning of process-driven life. The AI's battle directives had been entirely overwritten by an algorithm built to handle HR complaints, and it now refused to engage until someone explained the ethical implications of hierarchical targeting. Cass closed her laptop, kicked her feet up, and stared out the windshield as another Horok dropship slammed into a Costco and was promptly engulfed in welcome balloons and free sample trays. "You know," she muttered, spinning her pen like a knife. "You can conquer a world or you can navigate its supply chain, but you can't do both without a damn clipboard." By the time the Horok realized they weren't invading a planet, they were entering a Kafkaesque maze of contradictory regulations, passive-aggressive form letters, and surprise bake sales. It was far too late. The purity of submission now hovered above Earth not like a conqueror's flagship, but like a delivery truck with no address to drop the package. Grand Marshal Thux, pacing in ever-tighter circles around his crumbling command dais, was screaming into a ceremonial war mic that no longer had functional batteries. Below him, Command Logic Core 99 Fang had entered a full existential breakdown loop. The AI had just finished reading Section 47C of Earth's Terms and Conditions. By proceeding with hostile action, you agree to be emotionally available, legally accountable, and spiritually neutral in all endeavors. Refunds not guaranteed. It paused, emitted a digital sigh, and submitted a resignation letter via Google Docs. Back on Earth, Cassidy Braddock was summoned, not by the military, who had long since lost control of the situation, but by the newly formed Galactic Mediation Working Group, hastily established by terrified diplomats from 14 alien species watching the HFY collapse like a souffle in a wind tunnel. Cass arrived at the United Nations building in New York on a Segway. She wore her Navy SEAL tactical gear, minus the helmet, plus a World's Okayest SEAL mug in hand, and took the elevator up to the Emergency Diplomatic Summit while humming the theme from Mission Impossible. Inside, the room was chaos. The HFY ambassador was weeping into his battle codex. Representatives from the Valari Union and the Tharn Collective were passing around Cass's viral TikTok video labeled "How to File for Galactic Conquest and Get Denied in 3 Easy Steps." At the head of the room, the Galactic Mediation chair being utterly ignored, Cass stepped to the center of the holotable, slapped down a manila folder, and spoke with the calm finality of someone who's already scheduled your funeral and knows it conflicts with your brunch plans. "Ladies, gentlemen, sapient gas clouds," she began. "The HFY supremacy has been cited for 843 violations of interstellar procedure, 119 Earth-based infractions, and 1 deeply questionable interior design choice involving lava fountains. We're prepared to accept their unconditional surrender, provided they fill out Form 42B, Hostile Intentions, with a smile." She flipped the folder open. In triplicate. The silence in the room was biblical. Grand Marshal Thux now piped. In via video feed and sitting beneath a motivational poster that read, "Conquer your ego, not just planets," began a sputtering objection before pausing, nodding solemnly, and muttering, "Very well, I shall comply." The moment his words were spoken, a small Earth drone zoomed in and digitally stamped "Approved" on his forehead, before zipping away to file it under "Mostly Harmless Conquerors." The terms of surrender were not negotiated in blood or honor, but notarized in a Staples conference room using borrowed pens and stale coffee. The HFY Armada powered down. Several ships began broadcasting apologetic jazz. Earth absorbed the supremacy into a mutually beneficial trade pact that included mandatory cultural compliance seminars, a 6-week HR onboarding package, and access to streaming services limited to reality TV and survival cooking shows. Cass Braddock was promoted to Galactic Compliance Liaison, a title she celebrated by forwarding her own acceptance email to spam. Her first executive decision was to mandate a compulsory PowerPoint presentation titled, "Why You Don't Invade a Bureaucratic Species Without a Backup Plan and a Therapist." The presentation included animated charts, passive-aggressive pie graphs, and a closing video of Ramut teaching elderly Floridians how to line dance. As the HFY fleet limped back into the stars, emotionally broken, administratively humbled, and legally obligated to wear reflective vests, Cass stood atop the observation deck of Earth's new Interstellar Affairs Office, sipping lukewarm espresso and watching the sunset. Behind her, a fresh batch of alien diplomats waited in line, clutching clipboards and muttering about permit forms. She glanced back, smiled with all the warmth of a DMV printer rebooting mid-queue, and said, "Next."